Now, this week on our Sunday evening rugby corner, delighted to welcome former Munster back row, 139 appearances for the men in red between 2006 and 2014. James Coughlan, currently defence and forwards coach for Provence Rugby in the south of France. Thanks a million for joining us this evening.
No problem. You're more than welcome. Happy to do it.
How are you getting on these days? What's life like in France?
Pretty much the same as it's like in Ireland. We're all locked in, looking at ourselves. Doing as much work as we can. Just off a video with one of the lads, just to go through lineouts and stuff like that. But it's tough going. It's not easy, but hopefully we'll all come out the other side of it healthier anyway. So yeah.
And you mentioned there you're kind of still on the team calls and stuff and checking in with players. I presume has a decision been made on the French season? Is that done for the rest of the season? Obviously, we would have seen a lot of other sports, obviously in France, have been called off until September. So is your season done now?
Absolutely, yeah. They announced when was it? Last week, actually. I think the Prime Minister made an announcement that the seasons were finished until September. So the plan of attack is basically restart the season on the weekend of the 4th or 5th of September. And there's loads of protocols and stuff now that have been put in place in regards to how we can get back into group training and stuff. Majority of the clubs, we've a meeting on Tuesday with the president and all the players just to decide how we're going to work out the next few weeks. I know a few of the top 14 clubs, Bordeaux and a few others are going to take their holidays early because the players are entitled to their 4 weeks holidays, and then we attack the season. So I think pretty much everyone is going to look at maybe taking 3 weeks holidays in May and then working in back into the protocol. So the protocol is quite strict, and so we need to be well on top of everything before the lads start coming back into pre-season and stuff.
Yeah, and I suppose you probably don't want the players to be, I don't want to say you don't want to give them too much time off, but you don't want rust to set in or anything like that. You don't want them to be coming back into a pre-season having not really done anything for a while.
Yeah.
You do need to kind of keep the body ticking over for a little bit.
Absolutely. They've all got programs, and the SNC have been looking after having individual meetings with guys and keeping track on what they're doing. And in one sense, you're trying to get a head start in, okay, well, look, if we work really hard, then we're going to be in better place than everybody else. But the other thing is that we still have 18 weeks of the preseason that's probably going to be facing into. And the worry then is into overload and training, and you risk of injuries and risk of risking everything that could go, outside of the coronavirus stuff, everything that could go a bit pear-shaped. So we're just trying to make sure that we're as prudent as possible without, as you say, rust settling in. But I think there'll be a period of adaptation for everyone, no matter whether you're in Provence Rugby or Munster and Leinster. I think we're all going to pretty much be on the same boat and trying to look for the small advantages and the small things that might give us an edge going into the season,
So tell us about the role you've been in now for all of this season, Provence Rugby. I would say a lot of people over here probably wouldn't really know too much about the club.
No, I was with 2 years with the CDF in Pau after I retired. So I was responsible sportif with the CDF. And as part of that, I was doing my diplomas, same as everybody else, all the coaches' diplomas. So I spent two years up and down to Marcosi in the federation, just ticking off the boxes in regards to everything. It was a good experience in regards to, opening yourself up to like having to train under 8s and under 10s and stuff like that. Going back, the first year was pretty much like really back down to the basics. And
so you were properly teaching the kids how to play.
We'd go to Marcosi on the Monday, so we'd arrive on Monday. Tuesday would be theory, and then Wednesday you'd go to a club and you'd go take the under 12s, the under 14s, the under 16s, the under 8s. I don't know how anybody coaches under 8s or under 6s. I take their hat off to them. Because at the end of it, I said to one of the guys, I said, look, if I want to play with the kids, I'll play with my own kids. I'll come here to try and learn how to be a professional coach. But there's like, if you can coach the under sixes, you can coaching the French team isn't going to be any problem for you. So it was good. It's a good exposure to everything. And then last year was more into the management and into the actual professional game. And I met the manager of Province Rugby while I was there. As it turned out, the director of the Centre for Information and Poll took up a post with Province, and he called me to see would it be interesting to take up the post. There wasn't going to be anything in Poll. It wasn't really that, there was the choice of staying or going. I was, I wanted to get into a professional level, and I felt that this was the next step on that. And yeah, so it's down in Aix. It's a beautiful part of France, very, wealthy area. So it's very expensive, but it's beautiful, and there's a good appetite to grow the club. So there's a new training center going in, a 35 million training center. So they're investing in the club. We're putting into new synthetics onto the training pitch, and the playing pitch will be a synthetic, a bit like Musgrave Park, right, for example. And we're just trying to advance the club in small steps. So it's good. It's a good building experience. It's a good experience to be into professional games, into dealing with presidents and players and contracts, and because we haven't got a massive staff, so we're all kind of tied into doing a bit of everything. So it's good.
On a personal level, how have you found the step up from teaching academy kids, what you would have been kind of doing the S bars at POW, to being with full professional players on a daily basis, and being in charge of a department as such? You taking on whether it's the forwards or defence or something. How have you found that transition?
It's been great. It's the academy is excellent because it gives you a great grounding in the technical side of the game. In fact, because you kind of what we try to do is break down the game into the small bits for the players, and let them improve the small details in regards to the technique, and into the mental aspect of the game as well, not being selected, being left out of games and stuff like that. And how are you going to deal with it? What are you going to do in regards to extras? Because with the S-Bars, half the team is carrying bags for half the week with the pro team, tackle bags or whatever it is, but they're the opposition for the whole week. So you have to really go into detail. And so that stood to me well, I think, in the professional game, because the devil is really in the detail. So we try and be as detailed as we can, and without being on the other side of the office now, not knocking on the door, but fellas have a knocking on the door, that you're trying to be as honest and constructive as possible, and not giving an opinion. I think the hardest part for players is that sometimes the decision is an opinion and it's not based on anything, whereas we've tried and take out the opinion that, look, we can statistically we can show you why you're not playing. And then obviously there are times where you have to give an opinion, you have to choose, and there isn't a real valid reason that you can give guys after it. But I think the step up has been great, and the fact that we're in a small group has been excellent, because I'm kind of getting exposed to everything, like Regina wingers who are trying to. It's funny, I was watching Stuart Lancaster the other day on one of the webinars. He was saying, the winger will always say to you, I need to cover the backfield, and you need to be able to explain to him why he shouldn't be covering the backfield, for example, and you tend to view the game in the position you played. So he was saying, as a 7, I tend to view, when I started out, to view the game as a 7. Me as an 8 probably did the same thing, and having to take a step back and see where the open spaces are, why we would be under pressure if they go there and stuff like that. So it's been, I'm really enjoying it. I'm really, really enjoying the challenge, because it's a big challenge.
Was the coaching thing something that you would have thought a good while back that this is something you wanted to do, or is it something that kind of would have just grown on you down over the years?
I think I always wanted to, because if I wasn't coaching, I'd probably ended up teaching. So that would have been where I would have wanted to go. I was starting with Sedanta College when I was playing in regards to doing the sports science to become a PE teacher at the end of it. And then obviously with the move to France, that kind of got the brakes were put on that a bit. And so the the fact that you are teaching, you're still teaching kids. They're grown adults, like they're 130 kg kids, but they're still kids. And we're still chasing an oval ball around the 100-meter pitch. You know what I mean? So it's absolutely nuts, but we're still getting paid to do it. So it's brilliant. I'm trying to make the most of it while we're still getting the chance to enjoy ourselves.
And what were you doing? What did you do in your past life, for example, before you would have made the breakthrough at Munster?
I
Because
did
you were in your mid-20s at that point. Like, so I imagine there was a workplace at that stage.
There was, yeah. I was a sales rep for O2 for a couple of years. I was in university. I tried when I came out of university, I tried to do accounting for a couple of years, and it wasn't right for me. I shouldn't have ever even tried, and I still thank Brian Hyland for giving me a chance to realise that it probably really wasn't for me. But I was working as a sales rep, and on the business side of things for O2 as well as the commercial side. So it was you're driving around, you're getting your sandwich on the road, and then you're getting into training in the evening if you can, or you're trying to do weights at 7 or in the morning before you start doing your rounds, and you realize how lucky you are then when you do get into the professional setup, is that maybe it just gives you that appetite to try and not get back into that environment. You know what I mean? That you have that we have such a, when you're in the bubble, it's very easy to just get caught up in that bubble, that you lose sight of actually how lucky you are. And I think we still need to I was chatting to Peter O'Reilly yesterday, and I was just saying to him, I think the importance of guys like Marcus and Dennis Hurley and stuff, and Simon Hickey in regards to the players' union, and making sure that guys are prepared when they come out of the bubble, because we're not like footballers. We're not, you don't retire and that's it. You don't have to work anymore. Fellas are being better paid now than they were maybe when I finished, which is great for them. But we're not footballers. There's no. I was saying to one of the directors in the club, comes from Saint Etienne. He was in football in Saint Etienne when they had Aiden Hazard and really international players. And I said, like, the difference between rugby and football is that when your contract is up, you need a new one. Whereas a football player, his contract really is never up, because he's probably sold before his contract is up, or if they leave it run to the end, he doesn't really care at that stage, because he's cashing in basically. And how many examples of Chelsea have had fellas that are played 2 games for the reserves and been there for 5 years. You know what I mean? So that doesn't happen in rugby. So I think the fact that guys really need to be switched on about what they want to do afterwards and how they're going to live, because, as I say, it's not going to be forever. And I've been lucky enough, and I'll try and stay in the professional game for as long as I can. But it's a perception. If the president comes in next week and says, James, we're sorry, hasn't worked out, so off you go. And there's lots of fellas or even that kind of situation as well.
And before you get into the professional environment, you had to earn your stripes. You had to plug away in the AIL with Dolphin for quite a while. At what point along that journey did the idea of professional rugby actually come along? Like, for example, I was on this lot last week. We had Ali Muldowney, who had played with Connacht, and he was even later making the professional breakthrough. I think he was 26, nearly 27 by the time he played his first professional game. Obviously, you were a year or two earlier than that. But at what point in the club rugby stage did it actually kind of appear you might have a chance of maybe breaking in and getting a couple of games at Munster and impressing?
Yeah, which were the World Cup in France was in 2006, was it? Was it
7 in France?
7 in France, so it was the end of the 2006 season. I played, I think the 2005-2006 season, I played maybe 3 or 4 A games. We played Leinster and Roscrea. We played in Water Park against an English team or a Welsh team. I played, I think, 3 or 4 A games it was before there was the Celtic Cup or the BNI Cup or anything like that. It was just there was kind of a mix of guys playing, like Mushy would have been playing, for example. Tony Buckley would have been playing. You could have Mossy was playing, Mossy Lawler would have been playing at 10. You guys playing that were, I think Colin McMahon might have played a couple of games with me as well. I would play a couple of games with Gary Owen and stuff. And I think, you know, when you go through school and you go through the Irish schools, Munster schools, and then you don't get into at the time when I finished school, it was the Irish Academy. It wasn't the Munster Leinster Academy. It was the academy was directly in Congos pretty much the whole year, and then you had the foundations were in the clubs in the provinces. So I was in the Munster Foundation, but I wasn't in the academy. So you train with Mark McDermott and Ultima O'Callaghan, maybe 2 nights a week in UCC, and then that kind of just went by the wayside. And I you know, you never really give up hope, and because I was determined to try and get in and try and crack it and try and give it a go. And I always felt, because like fellas like Leamy and Kyo and stuff like that, who would have been ahead of me getting into the professional game, I was playing with Irish schools, and I always felt like I was as good as them. I could be as competitive as them. I was given a shot to train every day, to have the right nutrition, to do it, and I was very lucky with like a Decky. I think I was like top try scorer in the AAL my last season, not having a pro contract or development contract. And Decky was obviously a Dolphin man. He'd been at a lot of the game, and you know, Brian Hickey was in Con. Was the forest coach of Munster at that stage, so they'd see me. I think the development contract was Decky was kind of saying, look, we could give you 3 months for the summer to see how you go. And I said, no, you know, I need to give it a full crack. I'm giving it a full crack. I'll get, you know what I mean? We'll go the whole hog. And I was lucky. Garrett Fitzgerald, who was my coach in school, was the CEO of Munster. And I just got a crack, and I played a good few games at the start of the year, but unfortunately Ireland got knocked out of the World Cup early. So I was like, Axel was back, Donegan was back, Paulie was back. We were kind of hoping to go quarter-final, semi-final, final. I remember saying to Foggs, Dennis Fogarty, I was like, Christ, they're on the way back already. We haven't even got a shot. But no, I got a few games. We played against Ospreys in Thomond Park. It was one of my first or second game at Munster, and I got man of the match and stuff like that. And I just felt, oh Christ, I can hang in here, you know. If I can just hang in, and because I think I was only like 100 kgs when I signed, and I knew I needed to get bigger and stronger and faster. And if I can hang in for a season or two here, I can really develop and get on. And that's what it worked out to be, really, in the end.
And the process of getting bigger, is that a case of do the weights and shovel the food in?
Pretty much. I was fat. I'm coming back to being the same way I was before. It was. You think you're in shape, but you're not. You're not. You're nowhere near in shape. I'm just looking at Wally and Trevor Halstead, and these guys are unbelievable athletes. Paulie ripped to shreds and 115 kgs, and I was like 100 kgs with fucking a big bear belly on top of it. Not a bear belly, but I wasn't drinking, so I wasn't a bear belly, but like, you know, effectively baby fat, because I wasn't doing weights constantly. I wasn't eating what I should have been eating. I wasn't, you know, being as hydrated, being as concentrated on what I should have been. And it did take me a good 2 or 3 seasons to get my body but get my body in a position where, you know, week to week you can do it. Because when your body isn't where it should be, you can be very good for 1 week, but the 2 weeks after you mightn't be as good, and you think you're great, you think you're doing it all, but effectively it's your body is letting you down. And I think it was like 2 or 3 years before I actually got a hang of that, where it was kind of, I think one of the days Revs, who was still in the Seuss in Munster, I came into Revs to get a rub after. You're after shredding down a bit there, boy, aren't you? I was like, oh Christ, if he's after noticing it, then it must be after working at it. So as I say, it took a few years. And it's funny, I would have said when I started playing that putting on weight is much harder than losing weight, because it's you have to eat more and you train, you burn a lot of calories. But now I can tell you that when you stop playing, it's much harder to lose weight than it is to put on weight now. So it's come full circle.
It was interesting though. A few minutes ago, you mentioned how, like, when you were playing in the AL and trying to get the breakthrough, you were very determined that you were,
Mm.
trying to put the best foot forward and get a foot in the door somehow. Like, there would be a lot of players that go through that, the age grade stuff with their provinces and the representative teams, and ultimately, as you were saying, the national academy
Mm.
at the time, but the provincial academy contracts don't really
Mm.
arrive, and there is a huge amount of them that just
Mm.
fall off the grid and
Mm.
they don't even go out and play AL rugby. They might
No.
play the odd
Mm.
bit of junior stuff, but
Mm.
ultimately there are a huge number of promising careers
Mm.
that are probably drifting off because they see the door being closed if they're not getting in there straight away at 19 or 20.
Absolutely, and it's one of the difficulties. The benefits of being in Ireland is that everything is the career path is planned out for you. You know what I mean? Like the pyramid is the Irish team, and everything filters down from the Irish team, and that's brilliant if you can stay on that pyramid. The problem is the amount of guys that fall off that pyramid. There's only 4 professional teams in the country. I'm in Po at the moment with the convenement, and just being in Po here at the moment, you have Po, Carb is a Federal 1 team who's professional, Dax is a professional setup, and Dimitri Ashvili and Augustine Benoit, the coaches in Dax now. You have Buritz, Bayonne, Toulouse, Bordeaux, Mont-de-Marsan. After you go a bit further into Balnac, Colomiers, I'm just trying to think, is there Albi, Agen. So like in 250, if you did as the crow flies around me here, I know about 250 kilometers, there's about 10 professional teams. And where the guys in Toulouse, everybody wants to play for Toulouse or Bordeaux or Pau. If they don't make it, then there's the next tier is the Pro League 2 teams. If you don't make it, the next tier is the Federal 1 teams. We just don't have that system in Ireland, and I think it's difficult for guys then to jump ship. It's a big thing. Changing countries, because I remember Squeaky saying to me, we were coming back from an A game. Squeaky was one of the A coaches.
Can you give Squeaky's full name?
Yeah, Brian Walsh. Struggled. Thanks for that. Who was the con coach at the time? Who then when at the year I left, went in as back coach with the. Christ, you put me on the spot with that. Okay, I was able to get it out. So Squeaks was in the A coach, and then he took a sabbatical from the bank to go in with Axel and Mikko and Jerry when they took over in Munster after Rob Penny, and he said, James, if you look at it in football terms, Munster is Manchester United. There's nothing wrong with playing with Wimbledon. There's nothing wrong with playing with first division clubs. There's nothing wrong with that. Guys play, there's guys playing with Blackburn, there's guys playing with Reading, there's guys playing with Leeds, there's guys playing with, but they're living their dream, you know what I mean? And, Munster or Leinster, Connacht, they're the Manchester Uniteds, the Man Cities, the Paris Saint-Germains of rugby. And it's amazing that we're at that level now, whereas, not to have an Irish team in the top 4 of Europe, you scratching the head going, what the hell just happened? But that means that there's a lot of guys who are in that system that will lose out on not playing for Manchester United, because if the club feels that, if you're a young second row in Munster today, they've signed the World Cup winning second row, what do I do? You know what I mean? If I'm Darren O'Shea, or if I'm, where do I go? What do I do? Do I stay, or do I try and fight it out? Am I going to be happy to play Celtic Cup? And I think Duncan Williams spoke really well when he retired about all that, and the fact that you do your best and you're getting criticised, but like the people's exception of where you are and the reality of how it is are 2 different things completely.
Mm-hmm.
I think if guys don't want to go, you have to respect their decision that, okay, we haven't cracked it, we haven't made it in Ireland, I haven't cracked it. Like I remember Scott Deasy, who really retired from professional rugby very, very young, but he just said, look, all I ever wanted to do was play for Munster, and when that wasn't the reality for me, anymore. I didn't want to play professional rugby. I just, okay, I'm going to commit to my career. And then he goes on and wins 3 or 4 things. He has 2 or 3 AILs. He's won with Lansdowne, and he's now coaching in the coaching setup in Lansdowne. And that was his way of staying in rugby. But like other guys who want to go into professional rugby will go, shouldn't be afraid of adventure, because Ireland will always be there. You know what I mean? We'll always be able to come home. Like, home is always Cork, or, it's not going anywhere. With the help of God, it's not going anywhere. But, there's nothing wrong at 23, 24, just saying, look, it hasn't worked out here. That doesn't mean it's not going to. Like James Downey, I was reading James Downey in the 42 the other day, Galveston, Northampton, it's a different type of life, and you'd never know what you're going to run into or how you're going to be, unless you just take a punt and jump on the bus and see what happens,
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned obviously how steep that pyramid is in Irish rugby, where you have so few teams. Like, you were in the unlucky situation, obviously, around that time, where you would have had, like, just off the top of the head, Anthony Foley, David Wallace, Alan Quinlan, Dennis Leamy around there. Like, so some of the best back rows that have played rugby in Ireland in the last 20, 30 years. Like, you had to be very, very patient, even when you did get the foot in the door initially.
Yeah, and you have to realise that, you're playing against Axel. You know what I mean? You're going to put your hand up against Axel. I mean, Christ, wow, but you know what I mean? That's, when I think back about it, I think of how naive was I, you know what I mean, to think that, that I could live, but you know what I mean, maybe naive and stupidity and stubbornness was what served me in the end to crack it. You know what I mean? That, like, just to get my foot in the door was one thing, but like Raj saying it about playing for Ireland, there's one thing to play for Ireland, it's another thing to win for Ireland. You know what I mean? And you go from, okay, I want to get my foot in the door, and then I want to be kicking in Decky's door, or Dumper's door, Tony McGann, or Laurie's door, or Axel's door, to say, why aren't I playing? And being valid in your response to asking why you're not playing. But there's an awful lot of work that goes into that. You have to be patient. You have to be pig ignorant about it as well. You have to have a kind of an inner ignorance about it. Like, I don't care about your opinion. I'm going to keep working. I'm going to change your opinion on me. And I think if fellas who arrive at as high as they can go will have that bit of not arrogance, but in self-belief and self-determination, that look, if you think that, I think something else, and I'm going to keep going until I can prove myself right. And if you don't have that, you definitely won't go all the way. You definitely won't get to as high as you can go, because there's no limit. There's no thing that says this is where you have to stop. You know what I mean? Like, it would have been easy for me to say, oh, well, I have to stop because I'm no longer in the academy. There's no one to nobody decides that. No, the only one that decides that is yourself, and you have to take responsibility for that decision yourself.
Mm-hmm. So when you went in, and when you were first on a proper contract at Munster, straight away, were you kind of deliberately being a little bit bullish and trying to make sure that that you weren't standing off almost in the conversation, that you were there and you had to be a part of it, or were you allowing yourself to kind of just grow into that?
It was kind of a bit of both. I've probably been a pain in the ass for a lot of fellas. You know what I mean? I probably spoke too much. Looking back at it, I should have just shut up and listened to what the guys who were doing it were actually. I had an opinion, and I wasn't, not that I wasn't afraid to give it, but I thought it was valid. If it was valid, I'd say it. If it wasn't, but I looking back on it as a, from a coaching point of view now, I definitely should have shut up for the first couple of years. I just should have kept my mouth shut and just looked at what was going on and tried to learn more, rather than thinking I know everything, I know it all, don't worry, I know everything. So isn't the case, even though you're still learning on a day-to-day basis. That would be the one bit of advice that I'd give myself now looking back, would be just keep your mouth shut, keep your head down and work your ass off. You don't need to give your opinion all the time. You just need to keep your mouth shut and keep your head down. And then afterwards, I always felt like I had to do every training session to 100%, because if I didn't get anywhere near it, if I wasn't 100% at training, I wasn't going to be playing. And you know, there'll always be scraps. There'll always be, you know, we were never afraid to have a punch up at training, like between ourselves. Sometimes we were even afraid if we didn't have a punch up at training, that there was something wrong, that we weren't competitive, we weren't ready for the weekend because we haven't had that punch up during the week, that we just accepted it. And then there was, you know, and then I did do a lot of double trainings. Like I did do a lot of, you know, training in the morning in the gym. And when we would go to Limerick, for example, I'd go to the Limerick in the morning. I'd go to Tomas and Dunnach or Dennis Hurley, and go to the gym in the morning. We got to Limerick, then we'd have one session in the morning, and then we'd have an afternoon session. We'd kind of have a walkthrough in the morning, and then we'd have an afternoon session where we'd go. And if you were in the subs or if you weren't in the group, you were on the kick shit side. You were, you know, and there will probably be an argument on a Tuesday, certainly on a Tuesday. On a Thursday, less likely because the contact levels were down. But some Thursdays were the morning sessions, and then there'd definitely be somewhat of a bust up. But the majority of the time, for the first few years, I was then getting in the car, going to Cork, and then going training for Dolphin and playing for Dolphin on the Saturday. So I could end up doing 3 or 4 sessions on a Thursday afternoon, or Thursday total. I could actually end up doing four sessions, and you know, that probably stood to me in the end. You know what I mean? And the fact that I was working that a little bit more than probably everyone else was, you know, because we had Dave Romani was our coach in Dolphin when I was there for the majority of it, while I was still playing with Dolphin. And there was no 50-50 sessions with Dave. Like, we had a rucking net, and it was down, you were doing the rucking work, and then you were doing full on tackle. It was bone on bone. There was no, you know, half sessions as we were only doing touch. It was all full on. And because of in a club level, he only had the 2 sessions a week to prepare for the match on the Saturday. So you can understand why he was looking for us to do bone and bone and whatever it is. Obviously in a professional game you don't have to do the bone and bone because the lads only need to play 1 game a week. But I think that probably the extra work, and I didn't think of it as extra work. I just thought, like, I was going playing for Dolphin at the weekend, so I need to go training on the Thursday night. And I never kind of arrived because there was a few of the other Munster lads that I know that would just arrive to Thursday but just watch the session and just kind of hang around and say, no, I trained today, you know, don't worry about it. Or I just watch the lineouts and I'll get the calls. And then whereas I was putting on my boots and we were doing normal training, like I was just mucking in with everybody else, you know.
For how long would you have been kind of doing that, trying to do the extra little bit? And
I
kind of
think
like, at what point did you feel that, you know, you're actually here and you're part of this?
I think I played my last game for Dolphin was 2009 against Shannon. Yeah, it was, because I have a picture at home of it. And so that would have been 2009 was the last time I'd have played for Dolphin. And then I would still come down on a Thursday or watch the session or be around if fellas wanted to do extras and stuff, but I wouldn't be putting on the boots, or, you know what I mean, I'd be around a bit, but not always there and there a bit and doing a bit for them in regards to the press, or, you know, if they wanted to give out the medals and stuff like that to be on for this, because Tomas O'Leary was with me as well, and we were together, and we were both in Dolphin, so we'd kind of, all right, come on, we'll go straight to training afterward, and we'll just throw our head in anyway for half an hour. But I still felt I'd still go to Laurie Fisher pretty much the whole time while Laurie was there, and we'd do extras. I always felt I had to do extras. I didn't think, there was no point where I didn't think I needed to do extras. And sometimes I wouldn't do them straight after the session. Sometimes it would be, I'd come in on the Wednesday and do a bit of extras with Laurie in regards to technique to breakdown, or in regards to when Darbs was there. Darbs got me in the best physical shape that I could have been in with Aidan O'Connell. Aidan was brilliant with me because he was a pain in the ass, and we'd end up fighting each other, and, you know, we'd be giving out, he'd be screaming at me, I'd be screaming at him, but it was what I needed. He knew that was what I needed, and he knew that I needed to sometimes vent it against him. Like, it was his fault that I was having to work this hard, but it wasn't at all. He was just being there to facilitate me. I'll be speaking to Aidan on Wednesday. I still have a really good relationship with Aidan in regards to everything, in regards to rugby, because he was such a big influence on me, because he was like, you're doing it. Like, I don't care if you're tired. I don't care if you're doing it because you need to do it. And it was exactly what I needed. And there's so many people in Munster that nobody knows about that are like that really were the driver behind everything that we were doing, you know.
Mm-hmm. Over those years, then, like, there were great days. Like, I mean, winning the Celtic League title in 2011 was obviously fantastic. Two great games, I would imagine, to be a part of as well. The All Blacks game in 2008, you played in that. I'm certain, and then Australia when you beat them in 2010 as well. Like, these kind of games, they almost seem like a kind of a relic of rugby 20 years ago. You really don't see the touring sides on a winter's evening on a Wednesday night. Like, I remember being I was at the Australia game. Didn't get a ticket for the All Blacks one a couple of years earlier, but I remember being at that Australia game, and it was the most miserable I think it was a Tuesday or a Wednesday night in Limerick. Absolutely bucketing rain. But it just felt absolutely brilliant, like a packed Thomond Park on a Tuesday evening for like a touring Australian side, which had a couple of, a few pretty good players in it as well. And you sent them packing.
They're brilliant. They're great. They're great souvenirs. I remember going into the change room afterwards, because, as you say, I was captain for the match in Australia, and we went into the game into the change room, and I was chatting with Berwick Barnes afterwards, and I was just sitting down. And I remember looking over, and there was one of the young fellas from Darwin who'd never seen rain in his life like he had seen. He was wrapped up, I'm not joking, wrapped up in the hypothermia blanket. He had never experienced colder like it in his life. And we were inside, and I was like, it's windy, but it's not that bad, you know. It wasn't as bad as going to Galway and the sports ground on New Year's Eve, you know, when you've the sand from the pit, from the dogs coming in on top of you, so you were all sandburnt on your arms. It was freezing cold. It was lashing rain, and we were like, it's cold, but it's not, you know what I mean? It's not nice, but it's not the worst that we've ever played in. And like the All Blacks match was just just something special. I mean, I think it was Raj. I even remember Raj coming in. He said, like, this is probably the best event I've ever been to in my life. Like, between the helicopters coming down, the two hackers, the whole, like, the rugby was nearly here and there. You know what I mean? It was just one of those nights that was just amazing. The crowd was mental. The hacker, and then you're just trying to come back, and we were like, I remember we played UL Bohs on the Tuesday before that match, and they beat us with the team that was starting. Pretty much, and they beat us, or there was only a point or two between us or something like that. And we were like, all absolutely shitting a brick that if Bohs are going to beat us, what hope have we against the All Blacks? You know what I mean? And it wasn't the Mickey Mouse All Blacks team. Like, Kieran Reid was playing. I swapped jerseys with Adam Thompson, was playing with good 50 caps. Jose Guerra was on the wing. I'm just trying to go over. Liam Messon was playing.
Joe Rakatoko scored the winning try.
Thanks for that. Yeah. 78 minutes. Yeah. So no, but like they're special nights there. I mean, it's just they're lovely. It's something lovely to be able to show like my son was looking at the old matches on YouTube there last week. I was like, throw on one of the matches there for the laugh to see, and they're brilliant. You know, like days like Toulouse and Thomond Park. You know, and they're just our Harlequins away, and you know, they're just lovely. It's nice to be able to look back on them, and pity we didn't get to lift more trophies, because we just had the pox of the semi-final. I don't know how many semi-finals I lost, but there was way too many semi-finals. But and it's we were good enough. But then when you watch back the actual matches, like I watched the Toulon game with Finn last week, and we just threw it away. When you watch it back, like, we literally gave them the match. But look, They're brilliant, but they're a long time behind me now, unfortunately.
Was it a tough decision to leave when you did, because you left in
Yeah.
2014? You still had a year left on the
Yeah,
contract.
I did, and Garrett was brilliant. It was very hard. It was, because you spend your life, all you want to do is play for Munster. You know what I mean? And it was really, really difficult. It's just a really difficult decision. I didn't think I was ever going to get a crack with Ireland at that stage. I thought like I deserved a crack at a point. And then there was a tour. I think there was a tour to America that summer, because it was the Lions year. It might have been the Lions year or something, or I think it was America and Canada. And I thought I'd done enough, considering that, like, Jamie. I knew Jamie was going to go. I knew there was a good chance Shawnee, Peter O'Mahony were probably being in and around the mix. I thought that, on the basis of everything, we're in the semi-final of the Heineken Cup, blah, blah, blah. I was like, and then when I didn't get in, I was like, look, there isn't any, I'm never going to get another chance to go to change, because I'll finish out the contract and then I'll be too old. I'll be, you know what I mean? I might get another year at Munster if I was lucky. Maybe 2, and then you retire. So I was like, look, it's a chance to experience something different, to go and experience a different lifestyle and everything, and that's what we did.
Did you think you'd still be there, 6.5 years later?
No, I probably had 2 years in my head, and then I would come back. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there was no real plan, like 6-year plan or anything like that. You know what I mean? It was, we'll see how it works out, and if it doesn't work out, in 2 years you can come back. If you know what I mean, you just come back. But yeah, it's been, we're here. Anyway, so it's been great. It's been brilliant.
And I imagine the plan is France for another few years at this rate.
Yeah, I have another year with Province, and then we'll see what happens there. And yeah, I think if you're in professional setup, you want to get back into a professional setup at home, and I think that's professional coaching. And to do that, like, you need to make a career path. Looking at what Prendy was doing, Prendy was like in 42, and then he went up into top 14, and then he's changed a couple of clubs. But I'm looking at it like that as well. And Raj would say the same thing about, before you even think about applying for stuff at home, you need to have a fairly good. I'm looking at Ghazi's in Wasps. There's guys, we're all a bit spread out now around the place, but I think the majority of us are looking at a plan to maybe at one stage try and make an impact at home as well. I spoke with Felix 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, just about his experience with the World Cup and stuff like that, and see how he was getting on in his life coaching wise now. Is the problem? No, it's not a problem, but the thing about going home is you probably get one crack at it, maybe one crack at doing something. You won't get 3 or 4. So when you do go, you want to be as prepared as possible to give it as much as you can, and give it the best crack you can, and see, because I think the likelihood of having the days of like Decky Bruce there for 6 or 7 years, and they're getting fewer and fewer. Leo would be a good example of that now. That his staff are amazing. He's a brilliant staff, like Stuart Lancaster. You're looking at McBride as your scrum club, Philippe Contepomi, guys who have a connection with Leinster, as well as guys who haven't got a connection with Leinster but have an experience that would be a brilliant connection with them. In regards to Felipe, for example, and I think that, like with Connacht and Munster, Connacht staff is Connacht lads, Ulster, with Dan McFarlane and Kieran Campbell in the academy, and I think to keep the connection is vitally important going forward. And I spoke with Peter Malone last week in regards to the academy in Munster about what they're doing and stuff. So yeah, look, the plan is to stay in professional sport, professional rugby. The plan is to continue my personal progression, as well as picking up as much experience and stuff as I can, and just to keep going and see where we end up, and try and be as pig ignorant as I was as a player, as a coach as I was as a player. So yeah.
Well, James, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you this afternoon, and the very best of luck with everything with Province for next season as well. And hopefully, we'll speak to you again soon here on Off the Ball.
No problem, anytime.